Hello everyone. Today we are going to tackle the SAM Microsoft Access Module 2 project, which is entitled West Coast Outdoor Advertisers. I have the starter file downloaded. I've already renamed it with the Underpar 2 file name, which you can see, and I'm ready to go. The very first step is to open the billboard listings query in design view. So there under the queries section is the billboard listing query. Remember, they are in alphabetical order for ease of finding. Let's right click our mouse and choose design view. The layout of design view should be familiar to you from project module 1, and we are asked to delete the facing field from the query. So I'm going to slide my slider bar to the right until I see the facing field. I'm going to get the downward facing dark arrow and select that entire column, and then up on the ribbon in that context sensitive design tab I can find delete columns. When I click that tool, the column disappears. Now all I have to do is save, run, and close the query. Remember that you can save by right-clicking on the tab, choosing Save. Run is up on the ribbon with the red exclamation point. When you run the query, you'll see its results, and then I can simply close with the red X at the top of the query. Now we're going to be asked to create a new query. And this query is going to be created in Query Design View, and it is going to be based on the Add Rep table. I'm going to select Add Rep first because that may be helpful in as we move forward. Create tab is where we create various objects, and we want to create a query in design view, so query design will be our choice. We are asked for the tables from which this query will be based, so we want to choose that add rep table and add. When we add, we see that it appears on our canvas at the top. Since that's the only table we've been asked to use, I will now close, and we are basically ready to go. I can use the dragger bar here to rearrange my desktop. I'm going to add 4 fields to the query, and they have to be in the specific order that the instructions indicate. Add rep number, last name, first name, date hired. You can double click any field and it will drop down into the query. So we can double click add rep number followed by last name, first name, and then slide to look for date hired. Also, you can left click a field and drag it down and let go of your mouse pointer, and that's another way to drag a field into the query design. Add an ascending sort to the date hired field. That's just finding the intersection between the sort row and the date hired column and choosing ascending from that drop down. Now all we need to do is save the query with a specific name. So let's right click the tab, choose save, and then if we've added the name add rep hired query, click OK, and that step is complete. All we need to do now is run the add rep hired query and then close that query. Steps 3 and 4 are pretty straightforward with the instructions, or they're a review of tasks that you've done from Module 1. So I'm going to skip ahead to step 5. I'm going to open the unique cities query in Design View. So we will look down through our list and find the unique cities query, right click and choose Design View. I now need to modify the query to list all cities only once. This is accomplished by clicking in the first empty field in our query design panel and then opening the property sheet, which we find up on the ribbon. You will see there are many different properties that go along with the query. So our chore at this point is to change the unique values property from no to yes. And now that that is done, we can close that property sheet. We can run the query and prove to ourselves that the cities indeed are unique in the list. We are told there should be 18 records, and we can see 18 in the details at the bottom. And now we'll just save and close that query. At this point in time, we're going to tackle step 6. Step 6 asks us to create a crosstab query based on the billboard table. So I'll click the billboard table just for insurance purposes there. And from the Create tab, we will choose the query wizard. And this time in the query wizard, the correct selection is the Crosstab Query wizard. I can click OK, and a wizard dialog opens for me. I'm given some specifications. I want to use only data from the billboards table. So we will make sure that we click the table billboard. Go on to the next. Which fields do you want as row headings? We are told to use state. So I will choose state and push that over into the selected fields box by clicking that right arrow. Next. Which field values do you want as column headings? The instructions tell us to use the type field. So I'll click type and next. What number do you want calculated for each column and row intersection? It just so happens that we want the count of the billboard ID. The correct field and function is already highlighted, so I can just click the next button. And what do you want to name your query? The query name needs to be changed to state type, and we can finish. At this point, the crosstab displays the results. We'll view, save, and close. Step 7 asks us to open the top values query in Design View. Here's the top values query. We'll open it in Design View. The design structure should look familiar to us. We need to modify the query to sort the current due amounts in descending order. So we'll just find the current due and the intersection with the sort row and choose descending. Then we need to change the return value to display only the top 25%. This is again something that we can do through the property sheet. So we're going to click in the first empty area in the design and open the property sheet, and we can see that there is a property called top values currently set to all. We need to look at the drop down and choose 25%, the top 25%. That is what we want to see. We'll choose that, and the specification will be met. We'll run, save, and close the query. So let's run, save, and close the query. Okay. Step 8 asks us to open the Oregon Digital Query in Design View. Here's the Oregon Digital Query. We'll open it in Design View. Again, a familiar look and feel for us. We need to add criteria to select only those records where the type field equals digital, in this case, and the state field equal to Oregon. So I type digital in the state field, and in Oregon I'm actually going to have to type the OR inside of double quotes because the word or just so happens to be a reserved word in Access. And once this is done, we can run, save, and close the query. So I will run, save, and close the query. Now I'm going to open the square foot area query. And again, all our work is occurring in Design View, at least for a while. And in this particular step, we're going to modify the query by creating a calculated field to compute the square footage. We're told exactly what to do. We're going to just click our cursor in the first empty area and type and re-enter. And now when I run my query, we can see that there is an additional calculated column for square foot. We can now save, close, and we're done with step 9. Step 10, open the Caption Query. So we will click the Caption Query and open that. And we're going to modify the query by adding a caption for the facing field. So over in the facing field, how do we specify a caption? We're going to right click on facing and see at the bottom of that context menu there is a property box. This time the property sheet is for that field rather than the entire query. And there is indeed a spot to enter the caption. Once that is entered, we can close the property sheet, run, save, close. So this part should become pretty familiar to you. And step 10 is complete. Now we're going to open the No Current Due query. Again, in Design View. Modify the query to show only records where the current due field is equal to 0. In this particular case, we're asked to match against a value rather than a text match. So we want to put that equal sign in front of the 0. That is really the only special thing. We will then run the query. Save and close. So that is step 11. Step 12, we're going to open the Washington Advertisers query. That's down here at the bottom in Design View again. And in this case, we're being asked to hide the state field in the query. Well, you can see that there is a show row where there are checkboxes. That just means that each of these fields will show in our query. We've been asked to hide the state field. So I'm just going to unclick the show checkbox for the state. Run the query. The state does not show. And save and close. I'm going to leave steps 13 and 14 to you. I'm sure you can work those out on your own. Step 15 asks us to open the small audience query. Again, in Design View. And add a criteria to select only records where the value of the deck field is less than 2,000. Similar concept to previously when we were asked to find things that equaled 0. This time we're going to use less than and 2,000. That's the entire specification. Run, save, close. Okay. Now open the billboards by type query. So be very careful to choose the correct one. Some of them are named very similarly. So this time billboard by type query in Design View. And now we're going to modify it by adding totals to the query. So we do not see any totals here as a choice. We need to go up to the ribbon and click the Totals tool, and a new total row will appear in our query design. For the type field, we are going to let the total stay at group by, and for the billboard ID field we are going to choose count. Okay. Run, save, close. Run, save, close. I'm going to leave step 17 to your own devices. The instructions are pretty specific. And on 18, we're going to use the report wizard to create a new report. So we're moving from queries to reports. We're going to create and choose the report wizard. Include all the fields from the all advertisers query. So let's choose the correct query from the drop down. All advertisers query. And all the fields, it's easy to push them all over simultaneously by using the double arrow. Now we can choose next. Do you want to add any grouping levels? What do the instructions say? Group the report by last name. So we will choose last name as a grouping. Choose next. We are told to use no additional sorting in the report, so we can go on to the next. We are told to use a stepped layout and portrait orientation, so the defaults are sufficient, and we can choose next. And what title do I want to give the report? All advertisers report, so I will change the word and finish. The report is generated to the screen. Now I will just save and close. There is a sample of the report in the instructions that you can refer to. Remember to save and close any open objects in your database. Compact and repair, that should be a review for you. You can either look in the database tools ribbon or go to what's called backstage view to compact and repair, and then close your database and exit access and submit. I hope that you found this useful.